For the last part of the session, I'm going to welcome Francis Nappez. He's the managing director of Hectar. So Hectar, some of you may have heard of it, and he will tell us a bit more of that. And we're going to have a 20-minute chat for this last part. Welcome. The lights. So yeah, you are a tech entrepreneur. You went into agriculture driven by the environmental impacts, and you are the managing director of Hectar. Could you tell us a few words about what is Hectar? What do you do there?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. I think I'm thrilled to see such a crowd on the regenerative agriculture topic, so thank you for being here. The first thing about Hectar is, above all, we are a farm close to Paris, so 1 hour driving from Paris, and we do there a ton of things. We already talked before with a different person on stage, but I think even if we dive into the activities of Hectar, so we have regenerative agriculture farm close to Paris, when our main obsession today is who will be producing in the coming years. Because in parallel of the agriculture, the regenerative agriculture transition, you have also a generation transition to assume. And those two transitions at the same time give us lots of opportunities to rewrite the future of our agriculture. So we are a farm, we are an NGO. It's a team of 25 people today working on this project. And I can explain who is welcome on the farm, because I think I really like the fact that we are obsessed by who will be producing and who will be helping producers in the future. So we welcome on the farm, we bring people like future farmers, because we have programs for future farmers. Regenerative, of course, but also, as we mentioned just before, that will be living from their production, very important. We welcome startups. We have dedicated programs to accelerate startups on our farm, to experiment and try to help them to enter this market with new technology and, of course, new ways to think about agriculture. And we welcome companies, so you are in the agriculture ecosystem or not. We welcome you to get some immersions for 1 day or 2 days, understanding the different aspects of the regenerative agriculture and how we did it and how we decided to do it with Hectar.
Okay. When we had a talk to prepare this session, you explained to me that there were different production models coexisting into Hectar, not only food production, that it's some key element of what you want to achieve with the Hectar model.
Yeah, and to talk about the models that we have today, it's important to say where we come from. And when we took over the farm in 2020, it was a 40-year-old mechanical and chemical-based farm production. And so we decided to stop 1 day from another from a regenerative agriculture approach. And when we talk about transition, so we really felt this transition on our land, on our soil. And given the opportunity to absorb this transition, I think we decided to have different models of production on the farm. So we have crops, so we produce cereals and we produce oil. We have a dairy farm where we produce milk and especially we produce yogurts. And more recently, we decided to produce flowers for perfume, which is another model with another economic and ecosystem. And we have a ton of other ideas that will come in the coming future, but I think this is important to say that future farming is not based on one model, but maybe the combination of several models, and especially for 2 things. The first one is economic. How do you make your farm, your production resilient to the economic aspect? And the second one is when you have employees, you need to find a way to absorb your employees all year long. So you need to have different production at a different level of involvement in terms of team. And that's why we have different models on our farm.
Okay. We've talked about replicability, and that's something that you've worked on at Hectar. We've talked also about failures and successes. How do you work on that? How do you trace the different attempts you do, the test and learn approach?
Maybe to answer this question, I think I need to make sure that every project at Hectar is matching 3 pillars. So the first one is, of course, in terms of environmental impact is positive. The second one is it should be economically viable. And the third one is the social aspect. So what is the impact of this model on the social aspect? So every project we try to implement at Hectar should be matching these 3 pillars. I think the try and learn, and maybe sometimes success or failure, but I think this ability to try things and to fail and to retry and to, I think it's a big power for us to make sure that all the people that will be going through our models or through our documentation that we will deliver at the end will be able to not replicate the errors and maybe to highlight the success we had. So we try to write everything we do and the errors and the successes to make sure that people that will be taking over on their own farm at the end will be able to replicate, because we talked about replication just before, but I think the replication of the model for me is very important, I would say.
Okay. You mentioned that you were an accelerator for startups. How do you see the role of innovation into this regenerative transition? And do you want to highlight maybe a few examples of startups that help farmers through this transition?
Yeah, very interesting. I could talk about this during 1 hour, so I think I try to be very sharp. But I think the first one is, I don't know how it's been mentioned, but the complexity of regenerative agriculture is huge. So you need to have tools to absorb around you the complexity and to help you to decide or to help you to create value on your farm. And so there is an ecosystem of startups, innovations, solutions that you could use to help you on your daily, not your daily job, your daily task, but on your daily strategy. The second one is social. So one of the big pain in the agriculture is to find some people, some employees to do the job. And as soon as you have this consideration for your employees, you need to have solutions that will help them to do their job, to do their tasks on a daily basis. So I'll just give you one example. We have, I think we have explored more than 5,000 startups since the beginning of the accelerator, and we met between 300 and 400 startups, and we accelerated at the end, not so far from 80 startups today. So I think we have a complete view, complete landscape of the startup ecosystem on this topic. And today, just to give you one example that I really love because it's matching several boxes for me. So the one is social, technology, of course, and economically viable. So this is a cobot that exists in the US. It's not yet in Europe, but you have a cobot. I think it's interesting because sometimes innovation is seen as something that will replace farmers. And for us, naming a cobot is like something that will help in the future of the farmers. And it's a company named Bureau, and it's a trolley that will follow you during your journey, and you can walk around the farm and harvest things and put it on it, and the trolley will follow you automatically with computer vision and ton of things. But it's very interesting to see how this kind of technology will help farmers on heartfulness or the load that your employees will be bringing all day long. So I think it's one of the examples, but it's a good one. The second one is AI-based crop productivity solution, because you have a ton of parameters to consider to decide that you will be producing this or that. And you have now platforms based on AI and based on tons of data that will help you to decide which crop you should seed here for what kind of output.
Okay. Boris mentioned earlier during the panel that most of the funds dedicated to agriculture were poured into agtech or robotics and not into raw production, primary production. How do you respond to that? What do you think about it?
Yes, this is a signal we noticed when we began to analyze the ecosystem of the startups and the funds. And if we have funds in the room, I think we will be happy to talk. But one of the schemes is the 50% of the money in the 4 or 5 years that we've been going through have been delivered to the downside of the value chain, so delivering new food, etc. But today, the farmers and the amount side of the value chain has not been financed equally. So we try to influence funds and financial institutions that they will be, they should finance the other parts of the value chain to ensure that the farmers during the transition to Regenerative will find solutions, will find help, support to achieve their transitions.
Okay. You mentioned that the transition was not only a transition towards regenerative agriculture, but it's also a transition from one generation to another, and there's a huge issue around attractiveness of the job, the farmer job. Hectar is a school. What do you implement in relation to this issue?
So it's not a school per se, but I think it's kind of a place when you find experimentation, where you can find information, training, when you can learn things and see how we decided to do it, because you have different ways to address that kind of transitions. So I think, yes, you're completely right when you say it's a social transition that we have to operate. We talked about risk because the corporates or the actor of the agri-food chain is really pushing for a transition to the regenerative for their farmers. But what kind of support do they provide to make sure that the farmers will feel comfortable to do it? And it could be financial support, it could be expertise support, it could be time, it could be consideration. So you have an ecosystem to recreate to make sure that the newcomers, the farmers that are arriving today in this ecosystem will feel comfortable to achieve this transition. So when you arrive today, you are a new farmer, you need to take over the farm, you need to deliver a transition because your chain is recurring, and so it's a kind of a mountain to climb. So we need to find a way to build a cooperation model with corporates, with farmers, with cooperatives, to make sure that all these actors will be able to speak and to interact in a good way to make sure that the transition will happen.
So is it something linked to the coalitions that Morgan mentioned that Pernod Ricard is part of? So yeah, that's one part of the solution.
I think we have already a few examples, but we have already. And maybe in the coming future, there will be more and more cooperation on this. I think to come back to your first question, but the last one about food, the last one from our point of view is food, because it's really hard to move and to take risk on this production. You have like a few margin to move, so you need to be really supported to make sure that this will happen.
And when you say supported, you mean supported by the ecosystem,
I think
the value chain?
Boris mentioned that because he said it's 3 to 5 years to change your farm, to change your production model. So what's happening during 5 years? So you're not producing exactly the same thing. You don't have the yield that you expect. You need to hire people to help you to do your transition. So it's I think the situation during 3 to 5 years is really your weak point. And to make sure that it will happen at the end, corporates need to understand that and finance this phase. The ramp up, we call internally we call it a ramp up, but I think to have in mind that there will be a phase where it's not as before. Even the procurement teams in the cooperatives or in the corporate should change their mindset. We talk about mindset, but should change their mindset on what are they buying and how much are they buying, and to make sure that they consider that this farmer or this group of farmers are moving into the transition. So the product, the output, the raw material that they will be providing is not the same as before.
So it's on defining purchase conditions for this 3 to 5 year transition period.
Exactly.
That could be around visibility with long-term contracts, but also premiums, even if the transition is not achieved. There are some examples for organic certification that normally, for the 3 years of the transition, you don't have the organic label, so you don't have the premium linked to the organic label. But some initiatives try to valorize the transition period and say, I'm in conversion, I'm in transition to organic certification. So kind of a similar system for regenerative agriculture transition.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that in a few years it will be completely normal to have that kind of product on the table. Today it's a small part of the whole proposition, but I think it should be more and more representative to make sure that the farmers feel supported during this transition.
Okay. I see that we only have 1 minute left. I'm going to leave this 1 minute to you. What would you like to add on top of everything that has been already discussed today on regenerative agriculture? Sorry for the tough question.
Yeah, it's a huge mission, but I think something I can retain from our panel here is cooperation is mandatory. So we should all cooperate, and I think this is one of the value of Hectar is to be able to talk to tons of different stakeholders around this transition. But cooperation is key. The second one is the economical aspect. I think we've been insisting on this, but I think it's a very important point to have in mind that, yes, at some point, the farmers need to earn money, to make money with their company, with their farm. And the last one is if we want newcomers to enter the agriculture ecosystem and to cover the farms that will be available in the coming years, we need to recreate something really attractive. And talking about regenerative agriculture is attractive, talking about making money is attractive, talking about social condition, wealth, well-being, as we talked, I think it's very attractive. So at the end of the day, if we succeed to achieve this transition, we will be seeing newcomers in the agriculture ecosystem.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Fanny.
On the buzz, so perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
And that's the end of our regenerative agriculture session. Thank you all for attending it, and have a great ChangeNOW event.